Hello, everyone from Chelsea Fan TV. I hope you're all doing very, very well. We are not in the studio today, so we thought we'd do a virtual review of the Shamrock game. It's still the day after, but God honest truth, I thought to myself, are we really going to travel all that way into the studio for Shamrock? I'm not even going to lie. I don't know how long it takes you guys to get to the studio. I know for Scott it's quite a long way, and for Kev it's even longer. But I mean, it basically eats up my whole day when I go to the studio, and I'm happy to do it. But I thought, bloody Shamrock, come on, guys. I mean, we're basically stating the obvious here. We won. It was comfortable. It was, yeah. I mean,
it was Shamrock.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, it was Shamrock. So, listen, without further ado, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do. And smash a like button on this video as well. Big up to Kev, Lewis, and Scott for joining us today. I'll start off with you, Scott. I mean, what did you think of the performance?
I think it was like what most of our Conference League games have been, in terms of we play at like 70-80% of what we can play at, but because of the level of opposition we're playing, we smashed them. Like, outside of the Heidenheim game, I don't think since we've been in the group stage we've ever had to go out of like third gear in any game. Like Noah was easy, Astana was easy, Ghent was easy. Can't remember who we played first. And then last night was easy as well. And it's like we can, even if like, I think we've had games as well, like even the game yesterday, we can have games where like, I wouldn't say we were playing with 10 men, but you have guys that like maybe aren't playing to their best, and we still win 5-1 because it like we're just so much better and we have the talent. So yeah, I think that's kind of positive, and we saw some academy guys get good minutes, which is always positive as long as they're good enough to play, which I think most of them showed they can have an impact. And we're now unbeaten, 100% into the next round. Got to wait till March, I think, until we play next.
Yep.
But yeah, could end up facing a multitude of teams that we already faced. Like we could face Ghent again, Heidenheim, Shamrock.
See, we ain't gonna face Fiorentina in the final, based off the bracket.
Oh, even if we could, I don't think they're one of the better teams. Like we'll probably face the team that finished second, maybe. I don't know. But
Betis is apparently in our half for the round of 16.
We could get them in the next round, yeah.
Pretty decent team. But wow, if we don't wipe the floor with the teams in front of us, there's a problem there. And that's with our second team. We are smashing every team in front of us with academy players. I think Harvey Bell got minutes last night. It's good to see him back. Action Pong's obviously just signed a 5-year contract. He's back. And that's what we want to see.
How much money he's on for that 5-year deal? Like,
let me see.
Nobody knows how much he's actually on. I mean, it's great that he signed a new contract. And I mean, I spoke to people after the game, and I mean, I heard a couple of people saying that, in fact, the majority of people I spoke to, I mean, they didn't necessarily have bad things to say about Tyreek George, but the overall consensus was Achimpong seems like he's slightly ahead in the pecking order. And I guess that probably makes sense because you've got Reece James, who's always injured, and if Gusto needs rotation, it's just him. So there's a genuine opportunity to get into that first team. And then when you got Tyreek George, I mean, actually, you could say something similar for Tyreek George, because Mudryk obviously not being in the picture now, he's going to step into that role. But it's not as easy for him to get minutes because there is competition with obviously
in
Sancho.
The Conference League, it will be like it'd be better than like other seasons.
I mean, do you think that Tyreek George is a better player than Mudryk? I mean, this is a genuine question.
But Mudryk was just being handed the Conference League. It was like, just do your thing there. I think that's going to be the same thing for Tyreek George until probably like the later rounds. Like once we get to about the quarters, or if we face one of the more serious teams, maybe he'd be one of the players that gets pushed to the bench. But other than that, I'd expect him to still be getting regular game time in this competition.
One of the things that I heard about Tyreek George, just when I was doing the fan cams last night, is people say that it's a bit like Jadon Sancho. We need to see you try and go for goal. We need to see you take on that shot. So I could, when you've just come into the side, you're not going to see anyone. I don't even know how old Tyreek George is. What, 18?
18, I think.
Yeah, I mean he's a very, very young player. But I like the fact that he does drive at players. He looks relatively direct, and he seems to be. He's not just going to get the ball and pass backwards. He likes to take a man on, similar to Madueke, I suppose. And he seems quite nifty. But I mean, these things all come with time. And hopefully after a couple of months of featuring, at least in the cup games, we can see him start picking up, maybe get a couple of assists, a goal in there as well. Because we've seen it with players like Mark Guiu, not necessarily having the best start to life at Chelsea, but in recent weeks, he's been very, very clinical. And he's taken his opportunities. And I think that that's just because we know he's not going to play 6 games in a row or anything like that. But in the 6 games that he does play, he knows he's going to play in them and he can prepare mentally for those games. And that's the beauty of the Conference League. So it'd be nice to see us progress and bring more young players into the fold. But now we're sort of coming to that period where we're going to have to think about rotation because we are in the knockout stages. If you are drawing in a game in the knockout rounds and you think, my goodness, maybe it's not as comfortable as we thought it was going to be, that's where maybe you will see the likes of Palmer coming off the bench or whoever it is, although I still don't think they'll be starting in those games. I mean, I'll just start with you, Kev. We had a number of young players in the squad yesterday, obviously Achimpong, Kasedi, Mark Guiu, George. We saw Rapsak coming on, Harvey Vale, Murray Campbell making his debut as well. I mean, is there any of those players that you think they're going to be integral to this Conference League squad right until the end?
You got your obvious Viega and Guihi, 2 players that we brought during the summer, and Private George and Achimpong that are Cobham graduates. So there's 4 that I believe that'll be in and around this Conference League to the latter stages, but the rest of them I feel like yesterday was just a run out for them for us to save legs for Everton. I said this weeks ago, we was worried about Shamrock Rovers weeks ago, saying how we're going to potential having a cup clash. When we was at Newcastle, it was the same week. The EFL quarterfinals would be the same week. The Shamrock, and I said we could play our under 21 squad and give Shamrock a good hiding. And there you go. Yesterday, 5-1. So it's a good opportunity for these lads to come out and get minutes. And Guihi, like you said, in pre-season we've seen glimpses of a top potential player, but he hasn't had the time. And yesterday, in the minutes he's getting, he's got minutes over in Astana. He scored 2. He's had minutes last night, scored 3. So he scored 5 in 2. And I'm seeing a lot of stuff on the socials of him being similar to Suarez and all this stuff. Only time will tell. Only time. Yeah. He's people are saying has he been watching Suarez because his movements and his finishing reminds him a bit of a Luis Suarez kind of striker. But yeah, I could have said that. I haven't seen much of him, but from what I've seen pre-season, this guy's he's got a top work ethic, and obviously he's got an eye for goal. So maybe this gets him a loan deal in January. Who knows? I just feel like he needs more minutes, but it's good that we've got the Conference League to give these young talents minutes in the legs and opportunities to prove itself.
Do you agree with that, Scott?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that I don't know about the Suarez comparison, but I think it's just early in terms of I don't like comparing a lot of our players anyway because and whenever the comparison seems to happen, they never live up to the hype. Like I feel that way with Penders, but like time will tell in terms of seeing what he becomes. I think there was a lot of hype around him when he was in La Masia at Barca. And I remember when he made a couple of appearances for them. Don't remember what competition it was. I made a couple of appearances for them.
Like
I think a year.
Minutes, I think.
Yeah, it was like I think it was last year or the year before.
I think it was against Espanyol in the derby because that game was televised on ITV, and I think I just randomly switched it on and I saw the Guiu goal, but I mean nobody had a clue who he was at that time.
But no, and I think if he just keeps going as he is, then he'll continue. And I've seen some stuff this morning about like loaning him out. There's no point. I'll be honest, I wouldn't loan any of our players in January. It's such a
Sevilla meant to be.
I wouldn't. He'd be their 3rd choice striker. like maybe second choice at best. He wouldn't be starting for them week in, week out, which would be kind of the same as what he is with us. Maybe he gets a few more appearances off the bench, but is that worth it? I don't think so. Yeah, and I just think with the rest of the youth players, I think just keep them doing their thing. I think obviously just going back to the Acheampong and George thing, I think the thing with Acheampong is there's less people in front of him. And I also think that, in my opinion, I think it's easier, and we've shown this at Cobham, it's easier to develop an elite level defending talent rather than it is to develop an elite level attacking talent. Because I think the talent in terms of in worldwide football and in terms of attack, I think is just better than it is in defense generally. So the level you have to perform at to get to the top is slightly different. And so, yeah, I think that just by the nature of that, I think Acheampong will end up getting a few more minutes. But whether that means he's better than George, respective to their position, we'll kind of see over time. And yeah, as I said, I just hope it continues because, like, I've never been a massive fan of Cobham. I'm still not. But I've always said if there are players in the youth team that are good enough, they'll get their chance. And if
Why have
as
you
long
never
as they
been a fan of Cobham?
because I think it's overrated personally.
We've
and I
produced
feel
some very good players. And not just
Overrated, Scott.
yes, it's
I
overrated.
don't think there's a team in Europe that's produced
Here
as
we go.
many
Yes,
talents. If you look around the teams in Europe, you'll see that most players in their squads have got Chelsea graduates coming through. So overrated.
What level are we talking? Because this is where my
Even in the English, go through all the leagues, you'll see that most teams have got Chelsea graduates. Even in the Premier League, like even you go to Arsenal.
And again, that's why I ask what level, because you're right, you will see that. You'll see that
high level.
almost.
Look at Man United. They've got Mason Mount. If you go through most teams,
and Mason Mount's not good.
Yeah, but
Mason
Cobham
Mount's
produced.
overrated.
Yeah, but Cobham produced a player who generated 60 million for us.
100%. We also got like 40 mil or whatever it was for Gallagher. My point is, like, we produce a lot of players in quantity. I'm talking about quality. From a quality perspective, more often than not, the quality we produce is good enough to perform in the Premier League, like for your general Premier League club. I'm talking about at the top level. At the top level, we produce like
if you go through most teams, team by team, you'll see there's always one or two Chelsea players.
I agree, and that's what I said. From a quantity perspective,
players. Look at Palace, Mark Greehey. We go through most teams.
At the bottom of the Premier League.
Palace.
Yeah, Palace at the bottom of the Premier League. That's not top level talent.
Palace, arguably, would you say Mark Greehey's a top 6 defender?
No, I think
how many Chelsea graduates, Cobham graduates, do you see challenging for Champions Leagues and titles and playing in Champions League level teams? Very few, and that's my point. It's like from
Gallagher's gonna have a good run. You're gonna go through. You go to Roma. They've got Tammy Abraham. You go to Milan. They've got Ruben Loftus-Cheek. You go to Barcelona. They've got Michael Elise. They've got what's his name, Jamal Musiala. You can go around. You'll find one or two players that have come through.
Yeah, exactly. You'll find one or two. That's my point. You'll find one or two. Yeah. You won't find and this is my point, is like the way Cobham is spoken about from a talent perspective is people think that we produce unbelievable levels of talent in terms of can challenge at the top level, and that's just not true. We produce a lot of players in terms of that we can sell on and make money on and will play for your Palaces, Brentfords, Bournemouths, your Brighton,
Tamori as well.
Yeah, we can produce a million players that will play for those. We will produce like 2 players that will be able to play for Chelsea in terms of starting every week at the top level. That's the difference, and that's why I've never been the biggest fan of it. But as I said, I've always said if you're good enough, play in the first team, and if you perform, then you'll stay there. That's why I never rated Gilchrist. He came in, performed in terms of like did the kind of the tackling stuff, and he was like the next kind of version of what Gallagher was in terms of like it was all the passion stuff, but I saw very little in terms of once you got past the passion stuff and all that nonsense, it's like, okay, let me just see what you're about as a player. For me, there was really
like, oh, do you see the way he kicked everybody at extra time?
It was like that. Cool. There's nothing real there. Whereas with the guys we're seeing, like Acheampong, George, I'm seeing even though there's not really any of the passion stuff, which I despise because I just think it's like a quick and easy win to get to the to fans' hearts without having much behind you. We're now seeing they've got some substance. You know, even though George hasn't scored or whatnot, there's something there where his fundamentals are so good in terms of his dribbling ability, his close control, his link-up play is nice at 18. So the rest of the stuff will come with time, like the finishing, the final decision making, that will come with time. And same with Achimpong. And so that's why I'm glad they're getting the chance. And I think we're seeing as well that there is still that pathway from Cobham to the first team. Everyone was worried about it when these owners came in. They were selling, Gallagher's and Mounts and whoever else from the academy, but we're seeing that there is still that pathway.
Lewis?
Yeah, I echo everything in terms of the players that we've got right now. And again, that's why I'm happy with the Conference League, because it gives them an opportunity to get some minutes and get some experience. In terms of the whole Cobham argument, look, again, the arguments kind of lands in the middle for me, where it's look, we know Cobham is good for bringing out talent, and it's a good profit opportunity for us as well, because of how good the academy is in terms of churning out Premier League level quality. But I also hear Scott's point as well in terms of world class level players. It's very few and far between of us. I think we're good at producing right backs, centre backs. From a defensive perspective, I think we do pretty well for ourselves. It's about it. But still a good opportunity for us to make some extra profit on the side. It's a little side hustle, and yeah, great.
Fair enough. Let's speak. Lewis, who did you think? Who stood out to you in this game? Also, you've spoken about Mark Guiu. I personally wouldn't have a problem with him going on loan in January, but I could understand why fans would want him to stick around. I do think, irrespective of that, he needs to go on loan next season, whether that's a Championship loan or another Premier League side where he will definitely have the minutes. We don't want to have another Santos.
See, Maresca come out and say that Nkunku ain't really a striker as well now.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I don't think we're going to see him getting a lot of minutes in that role either. All the more reason to keep Guiu in the Conference League.
What, and then Nkunku drops deeper in those other games?
Yeah, because if you're saying he's not going to be the striker, you're basically hinting that you ain't going to use him in that role anymore. So
that's not very positive, though, is it? Because he's definitely not going to be playing in the Premier League. So
yeah,
it doesn't look like Nkunku's future is particularly promising.
He's going to be the third choice attacking midfielder, come centre forward, isn't it? He's third choice now, isn't it? Behind Palmer and Felix. So it's not good for him at all.
I don't understand.
We knew that anyway. We were saying this weeks ago that we don't feel like Nkunku's an out-and-out striker.
Surprised Felix ain't competing for the 9, to be honest.
Well, that's what I thought. I don't understand why Felix is ahead of Nkunku in this pecking order. It doesn't make much sense to me. Nkunku's he's twice the player that João Felix is, especially in terms of output. He's quadruple the player. So if you take away a little bit of flair that João Felix has, and I don't know, maybe he's got a bit more pace, I don't really see much more that he has to offer the side that Nkunku can't bring himself. What do you think the big difference is, Kev?
You just basically said it. I think Felix has got a bit more pace around him, probably trying a bit more tricky, but Nkunku's finishing is miles ahead, and his link-up play is miles ahead. I think Felix in that number 10, he gives the ball on the half in them little areas where you want to be keeping that ball, receiving the ball half turn. Felix always loses the ball in and around the box, and we think Nkunku he finds the net or finds a player. It's just for me a lot more sharper and a lot more aware in those areas. But there's obviously something that Maresca sees in Felix, because Felix, he usually starts Felix over Maresca over Nkunku, doesn't he? So yeah. I just don't know. We've been thinking. I think it's unfortunate that Jackson's having such a good season. Jackson's bringing his numbers on. I feel if Jackson wasn't performing to the standard he was now, Nkunku would have a lot more chances. But it's just unfortunate for him, innit? So one of the things, what can we do with Nkunku? It's hard. He's just going to have to take the minutes he gets in the Conference League and the Cup. So FA Cup starting next month. He's going to have to take the minutes he gets.
There should be opportunities next week.
Yeah, I was hearing transfer talk around potential swap deal with Rashford.
Piss off.
That's the next.
Whoa. Where the hell did you hear our name associated with that scrub?
No. Yeah, but that's what I've seen it, but I don't believe it. But that's what I've seen.
Where
Yeah,
is
I know.
this? Let me find this.
Rashford is like United's version of Sterling. They just don't know it yet. He
Yeah.
might be a United boy at heart, but he's the closest thing that I can
Lazy. He's
compare to
lazy.
Sterling. He is. He is.
Lazy.
If you take away some of the goals he scores, what does he do?
He's lazy. He's
Does
just fucking
nothing.
lazy.
Does
That's
You
why.
don't score that much anymore.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's basically like Sterling nowadays. But no, I'm not a fan of Rashford at all. He wouldn't
No.
suit the system at all. He wouldn't suit it. If we're trying to break down low blocks, that's not the kind of player I would have. So I see Rashford.
Yeah, we ain't.
a
Thankfully,
counter-
I can't find any Rashford links, but like I've seen our fan base are trying to do captain save a hoe with him, and it's like, no, just because we saved Sancho, don't mean we're saving everybody, bro. Especially Rashford. Rashford is finished. You learn nothing from the Sterling situation if you bring that bum to the club.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What do we make about Cucurella? Obviously, he's not available for the Everton game, so he featured in this one. I mean, what do we make about him? He got the goal as well.
Again.
Yeah,
Who
clearly
is
a
that?
level above the Conference League.
Oh,
Best left back in the world.
you think so?
He's the best left back in the world, and it's not close.
Wow, that is a massive statement. I'd score as well as horrendous from AC Milan personally, but yeah, I think
I don't think he's having a
is
good season so far. I've seen
Yeah,
AC
this
Milan
season,
fans
no one can chat to him in the league. No one can chat to him in the world.
He could be the best left back in the world.
Yeah, like right now, I'm not sure who else is there.
Based on
Think
form,
about it.
And the reason I say this as well is we just had the FIFA Pro, whatever it was, Best 11 come out the other day. He's the only left back that had a chance to get in that squad in the world.
Yep, makes sense.
Based on
I
the year
hear
he had previous.
Yeah.
And he's only carried on with that.
To be fair, we had this conversation before, didn't we? Is Cucurella the best in the world? But you almost feel a bit tentative, a bit like some fans are tentative about the title race, which we can absolutely get into. But I mean, there's a genuine argument to say Cucurella is the best well, he's undoubtedly the best in the league at the moment. But I mean, I don't follow enough teams in Europe like to zone in on one player and say, well, I know how he's been performing, but. I mean, Cucurella is pretty much you go pound for pound with any player in the world, based on this moment. And I think the thing that separates him compared to last season is that he's getting up the pitch. I've never seen Cucurella get involved in goals and creating goals as much as he has this season. That's probably one thing I'll give Maresca a lot of credit, because Poch was the one who got him into that inverted role, and obviously he improves an awful lot. Although I still think he was good as a left back last season. I'm not going to say
I think he was good, full stop. I think when he played at right back, he was good in the what was it, 1 or 2 games he played there. Good at left back. I think there was a couple performances. I think when we played Liverpool, I think Salah had him on toast a little bit. But generally speaking, I think he was good to very good. And then this season has just been like 8 or 9 out of 10 the whole season. Like him and Caicedo are 1A and 1B for player of the season.
Yeah.
Anyone else in contention?
Palmer probably, but I think that's more down to the numbers rather than actual performances. And then probably Jackson, but similarly, I think for the numbers that he might end up getting.
Caicedo and Cucurella have been the most consistent players.
Yeah. In terms of performances, they're like those two in their current positions are the best in the world at their positions currently.
And you can clearly see the difference in the way we want to play at the back football and want to play wide and everything else. Well, Cucurella was dropped for those games, I think, for the Liverpool game and for the Arsenal game, I think, where we had Reece James playing left back. You can clearly see the difference. He gives so much to the left-hand side, overlaps, tackling, comes inside, he sweeps up well. For me, I think you are right. I think he probably is the best left back in the world, because he's so smart as well with his movement. He knows when to drop deep. He knows where to go wide. He knows where to go forward. So smart, underrated, very underrated. And I think he hasn't dropped below 8 out of 10. In the performance he's had, he has not come under 8 out of 10. So yeah, he's got to have a shout for probably the best player this season for Chelsea. Yeah, 100%.
Especially when we see Vega as well, who I think's had a pretty good debut season. I don't think he's been a world beater, but I think he's been a very solid player. worth the money that we paid for him. I mean, if we picked up every player from now on and paid the money that we did for Vega, we'd look at that and we'd go, amazing business. But I mean, time will tell. I know you were a big fan when he first come in, Lewis. I mean, how do you think Vega's season's been so far, and what did you make of his performance yesterday?
Yesterday, I thought it was a slow start, grew into the game, then got comfortable. Level of opposition showed out. In terms of Vega's season, though, Conference League has been everything I expected. You make the most of the competition. In terms of Premier League, I think Bournemouth started slowly in the first half. Seemed to really struggle with the pace a little bit. Second half, I thought he got a little bit better. Has he started any other games for us? I think that's been his only league start.
The Newcastle game in the cup and was bad.
Yeah, that one, nobody stood out in that game. But I remember he had some really shaky moments in possession. Now you mention it. All in all, still a pretty good first start for us. I expect it to just keep getting better. If he ends up starting on Sunday, I think his height will be useful for us against Everton. And all in all, it's been a good transfer for us.
You never guess what, Lewis? You never guess he's been tied to come back into the squad for that one. I bet you've seen yourself in here.
Who?
Mr. Ben Chilwell.
Yeah. Don't worry about that.
I've seen. Listen, it wouldn't be a bad shout. It wouldn't be a bad shout.
It would be a terrible shout.
It'd be an awful
terrible shout.
Yes.
Chilwell inverting, God forbid.
No, he wouldn't invert. If Chilwell did come back into the squad, I guarantee it would probably end up meaning that we have Sancho on the left doing what Felix was doing against Leicester, or we'd put Felix on the left and have him do what he did against Leicester. We'd basically use Chilwell as the wide.
Keep we said at Leicester, just basically.
You can bring him off the bench against Morecambe. I don't mind that, but
even in this system, he's nowhere near good enough on the ball.
So you worried about Ben Chilwell against Everton, brother? Is that how deep it is against?
In general, yeah, I don't rate Chilwell, bro. Not at all.
Well. You got to think as well, Kev. He's had so many injuries. He's not been in for a long time. We need players sharp in December. We need them sharp.
I've just heard that he's going to be in the squad. I'm sure Viego will start.
But maybe he'll be on the bench.
Will be on the bench.
Maybe.
You ain't got an academy lad.
I'd rather have an academy kid on the bench instead of Chilwell.
Let's wheel out someone from Cobham, innit?
Yeah, that's bad.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I think Vega will probably start against Everton. I agree with you, Lewis. His height will be massive for us.
It might even be Gusto on the left and Caicedo on the right or something. I've heard that one being peddled around a bit.
Yeah. Well, if we're going with
Vega, you'd just be more comfortable in that role.
Mm-hmm. If we're going with height as well, I mean, you could potentially give. I mean, maybe I'm pushing my luck here, but Achimpong, maybe another start. He's quite a tall boy. I don't know who's going to start in the middle though. We're looking at Colwell and Tosin again?
I imagine it'll probably be Colwell and Tosin, and then Vega or Gusto at left back.
Tosin was pretty good in the last game too, so I'm with it.
I think against Everton as well.
I'd just go with the natural Gusto on the right and Viego on the left.
I would as well, but then you might have to change it around because I don't want Gusto inverting. It's going to be interesting whatever Maresca has to do because he's got some things to think about. Who's going to start where.
I mean, I was speaking with a guy called Thomas yesterday on the fan cams, and he had a really good description of Maresca. He's only young; he's like 16, 17, and he was saying the tweaks that Maresca makes is why we look so comfortable in a lot of these matches because he keeps managers guessing. One minute you've got the player on the right inverting, then it's the player on the left. You'll have games where we don't invert at all. And then we change the system with the wingers, for example, against Leicester. Lots of different tweaks that we see that maybe fans don't even appreciate that much because, a lot of the fans, myself included at times, you just go in the game and you want to have fun and have a drink. Maybe you don't see these things, but if you do dive in, we've certainly kept other teams on their toes as opposed to, other managers that we've had in the past who don't necessarily make changes and they're very stringent. And that's something that we've got to use to our benefit. And I think against Everton, I mean, these guys have had some pretty poor results, but they've also caused some issues for teams as well. If I'm not wrong, was it last season or this season they beat Arsenal? No, they just drew against Arsenal, didn't they? They just drew against Arsenal, and that was at the Emirates. So we know that there is a threat, even if it's not in terms of goals. You know, they're going to sit back, be stringent defensively. Do we see Everton causing us any issues, guys?
I think they will, just because they always do when it comes to us, when it comes to away. I saw something the other day. We've beaten them once in 7 away games.
Once in 7?
Yes.
Yeah,
That was when
22, 23.
Jorginho got
We
the
look like
pen.
garbage in
Yes.
that one too.
Yeah. And that's like, we've played them when they're terrible, when they're relegation candidates, when they have had Lampard in charge, when they've had Dyche in charge, whoever it has been in charge, and we've lost to them more times or drawn more times than we've won. And so, like, they can obviously give us problems in that sense. Same way United did in terms of, like, United are not a good team. They stink. Their team's horrible, but they gave us problems just because they always give us problems. And I just hope that we've already broken kind of one curse, quote unquote, so to speak, with the game against Brentford. I just hope we can, go and beat Everton and get through another one. That'll be a good positive and a good indication of where we're at. If we're starting to, like, break these curses or whatever that these teams have on us, then that'll be like a good positive going forward and show we're developing as a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, go on, Liz, go on.
No, I was just agreeing. I'm good.
It's interesting as well because if you look at the stats, I mean, it was very one-sided, but it wasn't always that way against Shamrock. Before we got that first goal, it was actually relatively, I'm not going to say even, but we did struggle to break them down at times. One thing that Lewis, you didn't go to the game, did you? Did you go, Scott?
No.
Okay. There was a heavy police presence for this game. And I read it online. And when we come out of Fulham Broadway, I spoke to one of the police officers and I went, like, why is there a heavy police presence against Shamrock? What's this got to do with
Irish English? That's one.
No, it's religious, Kev. It's Protestant and Catholic, mate. So
I
obviously
saw
Chelsea's
Chelsea and Shamrock fans were meant to be linking up for a fight, but that never happened.
Yeah, it's because Chelsea link with the Rangers and they're linked with the Celtic. Apparently, that's the
yeah. So it's all religious.
Makes
It
sense.
goes back to religion. But I'm not joking, guys. That's the most secure I've ever seen at a game. I've never seen that many police at a game. When you come in, usually against any team, you just walk through. You got the away fans there. Listen, they might get a little bit rowdy, but the police, you kind of just you find your way through, don't you? But for this one, they weren't letting fans through until the other section had passed. But I was looking at the Shamrock fans. It was all families and kids, mate. So I was like, what is going on here? So I think it was a little bit overhyped.
Yeah, it didn't seem like he was like that toxic in the ground.
Mate, the
What I got
Shamrock
was
fans
the
were so
toilet rolls
quiet.
getting
They
thrown
were so
around.
quiet.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
were poor. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a good day out for them, but I expected these, just based on the reports, I expected these Irish ultras. And I think the worst thing that I saw was some of the fans taking their shirt off. I mean, it was, that was it. Bits of toilet roll being thrown at Nkunku. Not really too much more than that happening. So I don't understand what all the fuss was about, but I guess better to be safe than sorry. Just moving on to another player in the midfield, Cassidy. He didn't play against Astana. What did we make of his performance, Scott?
I thought he was good. I think he's been mostly good this season in terms of, like, he's not been outstanding, but I don't really expect him to be. I think he's been, like, mostly just a steady presence in the midfield. I think he's been what a lot of us kind of thought Vega would be when he played, and what Vega kind of has been at times in terms of, like, not outstanding, but just steady. And I think it was the same again yesterday, considering he's playing in a role that I don't think he played in before. He didn't play that way at Reading, and he didn't play that way at Leicester. I don't know about, like, in the youth academy, obviously, where he's normally the one initiating, kind of doing almost the Jorginho role, quote unquote, or like what Caicedo does for us, when he picks up the ball from the centre backs. And I think when you compare him to his partner, the fact that I think there's not really any difference there in terms of, like, the way they play, and I'll even say I think Cassidy's been better than him across this season in general when he's played. I think he's been steady. I think, as I said, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think there's talks of him going on loan to Serie A in January, which would be a good move for him. And he probably doesn't have a long-term future here, but while he plays, I'm just glad he's kind of performing to a decent level. Like it's not good, not bad, not great, just a nice steady average.
Yeah, I mean, he when he was at Inter, and even in I think it was under 21, was it the Euros or World Cup? I think he was the top scorer.
Under 20 Euros, yeah.
So we've got a goal scoring midfielder there, but we just need to find a way to unlock him. But he's competing with Enzo Fernandez, really, if we're looking at that particular position.
Yeah, you just got to make the most of the Conference League minutes for this season, because I feel like both squads are kind of just laid out already. You might see a few players move in and out of it, but you kind of know who's playing every week at this point.
You don't think there's any way of Casady getting into this Chelsea side, even if it's just as a rotation option in the Prem? I mean, that's something, isn't it?
Even rotation, it'd just be more like, look, we're 3-0 up, go give him a couple minutes here or something. That's it. I don't expect us to be relying on him at any point in the season, not in the league.
Yeah. He is.
Yeah, I just feel like he has to just make use of the time he's getting in the conference, and you can see it patterned in that now. You can see the two different squads going into each game: Premier League, Europa Conference, Premier League, and that's where I believe he'll get most of the minutes. Obviously, with the FA Cup starting as well, hopefully he stays around for him to get minutes in that cup as well. But it's just difficult now. Obviously, Enzo's firing. Calçado, arguably our best player this season, and they've also got Lavia, who impresses me every single time he wears a Chelsea shirt. It's going to be difficult for him to get minutes in the Prem. It's just unfortunate for him. Maybe if it was last season and we was getting injuries after injury, he'd get a lot more time in the Prem, but it's just not going to happen. So let's see. But in respect of his performance last night, he seemed all right. You know, playing against average players, he looks good, but we need to judge him against a better team, let's say, for me to say, you know what, is he this or is he that? But, you know, you got to play what's in front of you, and right now he's playing decent in the Conference League.
I was really happy with the performance, and he had I think he had one or two shots outside the box as well. Made the keeper work for it at least. So I do think there is a player in there. It's just a question of how many minutes he's going to be able to get in this competition, but I suppose when you go past the Conference League, that's when you're struggling to, a bit like Mark Gear, isn't it? So it might just be a case of going on. But I do think there's a potential future at the club, especially when you look at players like Dewsbury Hall in the squad. And I don't think there is a future for him. He's a player that I was really happy when we signed him. I'm not going to sit here and say I watched Leicester last season, because I didn't. But I watched a lot of highlight reels, a lot of videos regarding Dewsbury Hall. Yeah. Hearing about his attitude as well. So I was excited when he come in and replaced Gallagher, because I thought, you know what, Gallagher's a good player. I liked Gallagher last season, but he was never going to fit into this style. We know that. He was never, ever going to fit into a technical style of football where it's possession orientated. And that's why I think moving to Atletico is the best thing for his career, to be totally honest. Forget Chelsea's side. I think it was actually good for Gallagher as well. But Dewsbury Hall, he played well against Barrow. I thought he was man of the match against Ghent. I don't think he's made any strides since then. And to be honest with you, I was really disappointed with his performance against Astana. He scored again yesterday, and I still feel like we've got a player there who, I don't know what it is. I just feel like he's missing something to his game. I mean, am I alone in thinking that?
No, he's like... I said about his performance on another stream yesterday. It was classic 20, 21, 22 Mount stat padding and having a terrible performance. Like he is such a nothing performance. And it's like, it's what I said earlier with Cassidy. It's like, you're what? I think 5 years at least his elder. You've played in the Championship, in the Prem. You were the best player in the Championship apparently last season in the same team where you were way above him in the pecking order. I can't tell you there's a massive difference in terms of ability between the two, based on what I'm seeing. Like, I'd happily give Cassidy's, Dewsbury Hall's minutes to Cassidy. Like, I've tried to defend him this season because I think a lot of the criticism he's had is unwarranted in terms of the level it's got to, but Just yesterday's performance is just like it's Shamrock Rovers, man. It's Shamrock Rovers. No disrespect, and like you're noticeably like doing nothing outside of scoring, which was a nice goal. In terms of doing anything I expect a midfielder to do, there's nothing there.
Yeah,
I think he just like kept things ticking. That's about it. Like, I don't think it was terrible. I just don't really think it stood out to me or anything. The performance.
Does it ever stand out?
Outside of Ghent,
No. Nah, not really. Like, there's been more disappointing performances. I think that's more what I'm saying.
That's a low bar, Lewis. That is a low bar.
No, I'm not even saying it to defend him. I'm just saying, like, I just thought he was just there, keeping things ticking in possession.
He's
Like,
just a
the
chill guy.
times within the start where I thought like his touch was letting him down a bit, but then I think he grew into it. The fact that he was just keeping things moving.
I'm just starting to believe every single second that this is the new daddy drink water.
Oh, no.
Literally.
Hey,
I just don't see why we signed him. Like, okay, he came to the bridge last year, in the FA Cup and absolutely roast cooked us. Let's be real, but he should not be in the Chelsea shirt. Is he a Chelsea player? I don't think he's nowhere near one. I feel like Brighton is the level he's on. So for him to be brought in as just a squad player, he's just wasting the guy's talent. I feel like there's been talks of him going on loan to Villa in January. Have you seen that one? Villa.
I've seen him. He's been linked with a few teams. To be fair, I think he's been linked with Leicester.
Yeah, Villa is the latest one. Villa. Yeah, maybe he gets more minutes elsewhere, but I have not seen him do anything at all. In the games he's played in, I haven't seen him do anything. And me and Alex, we went to the Newcastle game where he played right midfield, right wing, and he was awful.
He was the problem is, Kev, he can't dribble. Huh? He can't dribble.
I thought like that was his main thing. I think
can't dribble.
Even the season before last, when he was in the Prem, I was impressed with his ball carrying skills and stuff. But I haven't seen it in a Chelsea shirt yet. Like there wasn't for me personally. When I seen him play, he was always picking the ball up deep, spinning and traveling for the channels and bringing the ball forward. I haven't not seen that before since he's been in the Chelsea shirt. So I don't know. I just feel like either keep him to the end of the season or get rid of him in Jan. It's not work for him, and I just don't feel like he's going to. I just feel like he was the wrong signing. Maybe Maresca wanted to bring him in because he's seen something at Leicester that we haven't seen yet, but it hasn't worked so far. And I feel like there's so many players that are better than him already in the Chelsea shirt that his minutes and his talents are going to get wasted. So maybe it's a time to move him on, and so soon as well.
And I think it's like I said earlier. I think you could replace his minutes in the squad with Cassidy or Ugochukwu if we recall him in January, and I don't think you see any difference in terms of it doesn't get worse. Like it doesn't go down. It at least stays the level it's at, and that's a damning indictment, I think, of where he's been at this season. That two youth guys, in effect, are going to perform probably to the same level he's been at since he's been at this club.
I suppose one of the arguments you could make, though, is in every squad, it's good to have players that I don't want to say they know they're never going to get into the first team because that's probably not the right way to word it, but players that are okay with being rotation options, have a good attitude and basically keep the team as a team, as opposed to everybody wanting to start week in, week out, and then having, you've got players complaining and things like that when they don't get minutes. So in that sense, maybe it's not a bad thing to have a player like that, but I still think you've got to see more regardless.
Yeah, I could agree. I hear that.
Yeah, I kind of hear it because I think that's what Ruben was basically like when he was here, because he was happy to just be around the squad. But again, like you could have someone else do that role.
You can't even put his name in Ruben Loftus-Cheek's bracket.
No, but like not in terms of talent, but like I get the role he'd be, but
I just don't see anything with him.
Yeah, that's
the same because when we signed him, I thought, you know what, it could be a decent squad player, and I thought he'd rise to the opportunities that he get. We knew at the start of the season his opportunities would be limited, and I thought when he does get his chances that he'd perform. But I have not yet seen one decent performance. Okay, he scored last night. Got to give him his strokes for that, but that's probably the only thing he's done in the Chelsea shirt since he's been
And
there.
we've also reached a point with him as well. I can't remember what game it was. He's not even making Premier League benches, like not making Premier League squads now sometimes. Like
Waste.
so,
It's a waste.
yeah.
Waste.
Just
I think if he was making the Premier League squad, and there was an argument that I don't know, maybe if Fernandez got injured or someone else, maybe Dewsbury was that player that could slot in. But there's just such a difference in class, and I mean it's blatantly obvious. We don't really need to dig too deep into
If anything, like we'd probably just end up letting Caicedo move a bit further forwards, or just giving Nkunku or Felix minutes further forward. Like I think there's just other options for us.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, it's interesting as well. We had a player making his debut yesterday, Harrison Murray Campbell. I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of this guy. Maresca's comments after the game was, when you play your first game, it's never easy. He did quite well. He's good on the ball and good at defending. He deserved this chance. He was okay. So interesting to see whether we'll see any more minutes from him in future.
Maybe Morecambe. Past that, I doubt we'll see him again.
Hey, listen, big up to him. If he gets more minutes against Morecambe, if that's off the bench or starting, then that's a great first season. You made your debut for Chelsea. You've established yourself with some
and you're going to
minutes.
get a medal end of the season. So
And then off you go to a League Two team to see your career.
yeah,
Well,
no fact.
Bloody hell.
Or back into the youth team.
My goodness. But yeah, I mean, I was happy with the performance as a whole. I'm trying to think if there's anyone we haven't spoken about. We've spoken about the defense. We haven't spoken about the goalkeeping situation. That's another game with no clean sheet. Does that reflect on Jorgensen in goal?
No. I think the goal we couldn't do anything with, it was deflection. Yeah, and the biggest thing that I saw from him in the game yesterday, well, there was two things. Number one, the chance they had where he has to it was the wide angle where he kind of just had to palm it away for the corner. I think that's actually the corner they scored off of. That's a save that it looks easy, and it probably is, but it's more he made sure to palm it out rather than with Sanchez we've seen at times he'll just palm it down almost back into danger at times. And the other one was when there was a cross that came in and he just clatters into the Shamrock Rovers player while getting the ball, and it's I've never seen Sanchez do that. Not intentionally, where it's I'm going to go through you to get this ball. It's he comes to claim it and just he looks so nervous that he ends up having to challenge with the opposition player.
You're talking about Sanchez?
In what Sanchez does in terms of Jorgensen, there was a one yesterday where ball comes in and he just runs out, claims it, smashes into the Shamrock Rovers player, lands on his feet, and it's cool, I'm ready to go again. It's I don't think I've ever seen Sanchez do that with any cross.
I don't know if you guys seen this from Fabrizio. Reece James is back in partial team training. Says he'll finally start with us part of the session. Slowly he'll be back. So yeah, Reece James.
Everyone else, we just don't care anymore, bro, because it's only going to be another 2 more months. Reece James is out of a hamstring injury. Not even 3 months.
No, this one's going to be different. This one's going to be different. I believe.
I support Reece James. That's about it.
It's just hard.
I understand.
It's like your favorite singer. You listen to their songs. You're probably never going to see them live in concert.
Okay, now that's a peak analogy.
We're never going to see Reece James live again. Is that what you're saying?
If you get a train
once a year, if you're lucky, if you get tickets to the right
last season, I've seen him this season. Funny enough, Liverpool away. And he paid off. Yeah.
Last time I saw him was at United last season.
Jeez.
Oh, and Man U, was he? Yeah, and Old Trafford away, he was there.
He was left back, wasn't he? And then he switched over to the right.
Yeah. So I've seen him a couple of times.
I mean, look, I love Reece James, and I'm not one of those fans who's going to shit on him for being injured, but you got to say it how it is. And I say the same thing with Fofana. You do not build your team around injury-prone players. You don't do it. And to be honest, we have built our team around injury-prone players. We've got Lavia in there. We've got Neto. We've got James, Fofana. There's a lot of players in there who, if they all got injured, which is quite likely in a season based on their track record, then we would be in a totally different position.
To be fair, Neto and Madueke, both of them were injury prone before they came. They've actually been quite good in terms of injuries.
Oh, they've been great, and yeah,
Even Fofana, to be fair, the fact that Fofana only had his first injury, what was it? Recently, I can't remember what game it was after, but he's only out for like.
He's had 2 injuries since he's been here, Scott.
Oh no, yeah, no, since he's been, I'm talking about this season. Is what I mean. Like we've been for as many injury-prone players as we have in the squad, we've been lucky in terms of we've only had 2 guys that have had kind of injury, like regular injuries. I'll say.
Are you just saying this season then?
Yeah, just this season. I mean, not in general. Obviously, in general, it's been bad, like especially last season. But I'm saying just this season, we've been.
I mean, this season we've been lucky. We've been very lucky. But actually, I say luck. I mean, Maresca's had.
Yeah, it's a weird word to use in this sense,
but we have been lucky because if we didn't have Conference League, we would be forced to rotate less, and then we'd probably have 1 or 2 more injuries. But the thing is with Liverpool, if maybe we'll finish. We've got 10 more minutes. We'll finish off on this title race talk. I honestly, I don't know why Chelsea fans are so scared to say it. We're in the title race. We are in the title race. We're 2 points away from Liverpool.
What's our manager?
Mathematically, logically, this isn't even an opinion. Look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. And I read the comments, and honestly, I can't believe. Well, actually, I can believe it because everyone's doing it. But they're going, Alex, don't say it. Don't jinx it. But hang on a second. Just because we're in the race doesn't mean we have to win. I could still be very happy with 2nd place. It's been a successful season. I predicted we would finish 5th. So what is wrong with saying as a fan, and I know that you don't think there's anything wrong with it, but why is nobody... When is it
the reason why it's
that we are in this race?
It's because I'm just don't want to get my hopes built up before right now to the point where I'm thinking, yo, we are in a race, so I get excited and I feel like gets to May and we slipped off and we 5th. I'm gonna be like, oh shit!
Oh, don't say that, Kev. Don't say that.
We bottled it. So I'm just like, you know what? Let everyone else, all the rival fans, say we are. We just go game by game into each game, win each game, and we're getting closer and closer to the end of the season. If we are at this point in April, where we're 2 points away from Liverpool in April, yeah, I can then say definitively we are in the race. But right now, too early. The title race is not won in the middle of December. The title race is won in May. So there's a hell of a long way to go. But if the season was to finish next week, yes. But unfortunately, it's not. There's still, put it like this, Man City, as far as they are away from us and Liverpool, could still go on a bounce now and win the league. So it's just, don't get drawn into what all these other people saying. Let's just focus on the facts. It's too early right now for us to be in a race.
Yep, and we're not even leading the pack. If Maresca doesn't want to say we're in the title race, there's no reason for any of us to.
Sunday evening when we beat Everton, we are going to be top of the league. And I can't remember the last time off the top of my head where we were top of the league in December. But
2021.
Yeah. So just enjoy it. Enjoy the moment. Don't get drifted in, because what everybody wants to do now is to say, yeah, Chelsea, and we are going to be the laughing stocks coming into the season. We're going to be like Arsenal was last season. Laughing stocks, bottle jobs.
It's not the same. Because they've had 5 years. Yeah. 5 years of building to win a title. We didn't expect to be in this position, but we are. Yeah. So take it in your stride. Embrace it.
Title races are not won. Even Liverpool wouldn't be stupid enough to think they've won the league yet. Titles are not won in December.
I agree with that, but I think
seasons to go now. So we are not in a title race. No. So April, May, when there's 4 or 5 games left and we're 2 points away. Yeah. But mate, we could still finish 6th or 7th. We could go on a little flip.
Kev, of course, you know that's true.
But there you go.
It's also true that we're 2 points ahead of Liverpool, 2 points behind Liverpool. We've got the most goals in the league, if I'm not wrong. We've got 2 of the highest scorers in the league. We've got, well, arguably the best player in the league as well. Defensively, even though we don't concede a lot of, we don't keep a lot of clean sheets. We haven't actually conceded that many goals. Maybe it's a case of just refining with an extra signing in January, keeping our players fit, which I don't think is going to be that hard if we keep rotating the way we are. And it only takes one injury, major injury, like we saw with Rodri at Man City. Imagine Salah gets injured, or Gravenberch, or Van Dijk, or whoever it is. Then you're going to see a real slip up from Liverpool. And we haven't struggled beating the teams at the bottom of the table. So it's then about taking points against teams in the top six, and we haven't been losing those games. So I don't see, if Thierry Henry comes out and says beat a big team. Well, hang on a second. We're actually holding our own against pretty much everyone, even Liverpool. When we lost that game, there was a real good feeling after that match. I remember Paul Winstanley walked past us when we were doing the fan cams, and I looked at him and he smiled. He just smiled and walked off. And that's the confidence that you have even after losing that game. So I feel like we're in a very good position. We're very stable, and I have no issue with the manager saying what he's saying because he's the manager. I'm not a fucking manager, right? But you see it with your eyes. We are competing. We're absolutely in there. People say with certainty we're going to win the Conference League, but it only takes 2 matches and then you're out of the competition.
Yeah, but I mean that.
Yeah, but it's the level of team.
We're in it to win it, people. We're in it to win it, and I'm not saying we're going to win it, but I'm saying we're in the race. And anyone who says otherwise, I don't understand that. Even if we drop points against Everton, we're still in the race. Until we
I just can't bring myself to believe it yet right now. I just can't, bro. 2 seasons I've been a broken man watching Chelsea.
I'm just saying, believe we're in the race.
Right now, for me, I'd be lying. It'd be false belief. Huh?
The race don't start now. The race
started at the beginning of the season, Lewis.
But this is it. It becomes subjective. You think it starts from the start. I think it starts around February, March. Once you figure out who's actually in the race.
And I think if it does start at the start of the season, which I understand, this race is like a marathon, and we've anything can happen across the rest of the season. I think ultimately, January is going to be key, and we're like these owners coming off the back of their biggest window since they've been at this football club, are now going to have the next biggest window that they're going to have at this football club. If we come out of that January window having done no business, or say for example our only business is and Kunku leaves and Delap comes in, that doesn't scream we're challenging for the league to me. Like that's not challenging for the league. Like for example, I expect City to make 4 or 5 signings this summer. This January window.
Yeah.
And if they do, and we don't make any or make like 1 backup striker signing, then that to me shows okay, they're in a better position to win this title. Despite where they are in the league, they're in a better position to win the title than we are. Because ultimately, defensively, there's still question marks.
We all know City, second half of the season, City are better than the first half. They always go on a little run. And then they'll pick up every single game they go into, they'll get 3 points. They'll win every game. So for me to believe that Chelsea are in the title race, all depends on who we bring in January. If we go and get another solid centre back, and we go and get another striker, which is total. Okay, Jackson is a top quality striker, but we go and get a striker which is a box striker, say like just a tapping merchant. And we go to show us that they want to win the league with good signings. I'll be like, you know what, maybe then. But in the middle of December, bro, it's too early. We've got to be happy where we are in the league right now. But to say we're title contenders, there's still so long to go in this season. And like I said, the teams that are more experienced than us in the latter stages of the Premier League. So I don't want to get my hopes built up and have false belief right now. I just feel like January window, go into February, see where we are then, and I can then make a decision then. But for me, I can't say we're in the title race right now.
Just quickly, I completely agree with Kev. I'm going to keep my same energy I had before. I'm not saying we're in a title challenge until we get to January and see what happens. I'm going to keep the same energy.
Yep. Get me to 70 points first. Or let Maresca say that we're in a title race, one or the other. If Maresca believes, I believe.
No, don't get it twisted. Maresca, he ain't stupid. Maresca's going to be telling them lads, we can win this league. Behind closed doors, don't get it twisted. He'd be like, yeah, we are in the race and we can win the league because you've got to give the players the belief. But to the media and to other teams, no, we are not. We're just taking every game by game. And I think that's a smart thing for a manager to do because it's
And we need
taking
to
the pressure
follow
off.
the manager.
Yeah, it's taking the pressure off the players. There's no pressure on his players now. All they've got to do is turn up week and week, beat the team in front of them, and like I said, it's getting closer and closer to the end of the season. Right now, it's too far away to make that decision.
Fair enough. Well, listen, big up to everyone that's been watching this episode. Thank you so much if you have gone for the full hour. Thank you so much, Kev, Lewis, and Scott for coming up. Really appreciate your time, guys. If you want to subscribe to anyone's channel, the links will be in the description, guys. So go and check out everyone else's channels down below. All the best, guys, and we will catch up very, very soon. Before the Everton game, we've got the preview shows coming as well. And up the Chelsea.